Early one morning, far from the attention of the public, something unusual happened aboard one of the most powerful warships ever built. The vessel was not an ordinary ship. It was USS Gerald R. Ford, the United States Navy's newest and most expensive aircraft carrier, a floating fortress worth more than $13 billion. For years, the Ford had been presented as a symbol of modern military power. Built with the latest technology and designed to dominate the oceans, it represented the future of naval warfare. From a distance, it looked almost unstoppable, a massive steel city moving across the sea. But on that morning, something unexpected happened inside its massive structure. According to early reports from the United States Navy, a fire broke out somewhere within the ship. At first, it was not clear exactly where the flames started. Inside a vessel as large as the Ford, there are thousands of compartments, machines, cables, and equipment working every second. Even a small problem can quickly become dangerous if it is not controlled immediately. The moment the fire alarm sounded, the atmosphere inside the ship changed. Aircraft carriers operate under strict safety procedures. Every sailor on board is trained for emergencies. Fire is considered one of the most serious threats at sea, especially on a ship filled with aircraft fuel, electrical systems, and heavy machinery. Within seconds of the alarm, trained damage control teams moved into action. These teams are specially trained sailors whose job is to respond to fires, flooding, and other emergencies on naval ships. Wearing protective gear and breathing equipment, they rushed toward the location of the smoke. Inside the narrow corridors of the massive carrier, the situation was tense. Thick smoke can spread quickly inside a ship, and visibility can drop within minutes. Every second matters when a fire begins at sea. Reports later indicated that the fire had started in an area connected to ship operations, not on the flight deck where the aircraft are located. This detail was important because a fire near aircraft or fuel systems could be far more dangerous. Even so, the situation was taken extremely seriously. The Ford is not just any warship. It carries advanced aircraft, powerful radar systems, and complex electronic networks that control nearly every part of the vessel. Damage to any major system could affect operations across the entire ship. As firefighters worked inside the carrier, other sailors followed emergency protocols. Some helped secure nearby equipment. Others monitored systems to make sure the fire did not spread to other sections of the ship. The response was fast and coordinated. According to official information released by the U.S. Navy, the crew managed to bring the fire under control. Damage control teams successfully stopped the flames before the situation could become larger. However, the incident was not completely without consequences. 2 sailors were reported to have suffered minor injuries during the emergency response. They were treated by the ship's medical team, which is always prepared to handle injuries during operations at sea. Despite the seriousness of the event, officials confirmed that the ship itself remained operational. Still, the news quickly began spreading beyond the ship. When reports of a fire aboard a $13 billion aircraft carrier appear, attention follows immediately. Military analysts, defense reporters, and observers around the world began asking the same thing. How could such a powerful and advanced ship experience a fire on board? Aircraft carriers are built with multiple safety systems designed to prevent disasters. Fire suppression technology, automatic alarms, and strict maintenance procedures exist specifically to avoid incidents like this. Yet even the most advanced machines can face unexpected problems. Naval experts often explain that an aircraft carrier is closer to a small city than a simple ship. Thousands of people live and work on board. Huge engines operate constantly. Electrical systems run through miles of wiring. Aircraft are maintained, launched, and recovered every day. Inside that complex environment, even a small technical issue can trigger a serious situation. Because of this, the Navy quickly began looking into the incident. Investigations are standard procedure whenever something unusual happens on a major military vessel. Investigators typically review equipment, maintenance records, and crew reports to understand exactly what happened. They examine every detail, from electrical systems to human activity, to determine the cause. At the same time, rumors began appearing online. Some posts on social media suggested dramatic explanations. Others claimed the fire was connected to conflict in the region where the ship had been operating. In moments like these, speculation spreads quickly across the internet. But officials emphasized that the situation was still being carefully reviewed. For the sailors aboard the Ford, however, the event was already over. The emergency teams had done their job. The fire had been contained. The ship continued its operations. From the outside, the massive aircraft carrier still looked as powerful as ever. A giant steel island moving steadily across the ocean. But deep inside its complex structure, investigators quietly began examining the incident, searching through reports and technical data, trying to understand how the flames had appeared in the first place. And somewhere within that enormous warship, the marks of the fire still remained. Long before the fire incident ever happened, the ship already had a powerful reputation. The vessel was USS Gerald R. Ford, the newest class of aircraft carrier built by the United States Navy. It was not just another military ship. It was the result of years of engineering, planning, and billions of dollars in investment. When the carrier was first introduced to the world, many experts described it as the most advanced warship ever built. The Ford-class aircraft carrier was designed to replace the older Nimitz-class carriers, which had served the U.S. Navy for decades. Engineers wanted to build a ship that could launch aircraft faster, operate more efficiently, and support modern military technology. The result was a massive floating base that cost around $13 billion to build, making it the most expensive warship in history. The size of the carrier alone is difficult to imagine. USS Gerald R. Ford stretches more than 330 meters in length, which is longer than 3 football fields placed end to end. The ship weighs over 100,000 tons when fully loaded. On board, it carries a crew of more than 4,000 sailors and aviation personnel who operate the ship and its aircraft. From the outside, the ship appears like a giant steel island moving slowly through the ocean. But what makes the Ford-class carrier different is not only its size, it is the technology hidden inside. One of the most important innovations on the ship is something called the Electromagnetic Aircraft Launch System, also known as EMALS. Older aircraft carriers use steam-powered catapults to launch fighter jets into the air. These systems work, but they require large amounts of steam and heavy mechanical equipment. The Ford uses electromagnetic power instead. Instead of steam, EMALS uses powerful electromagnetic energy to launch aircraft from the deck. This allows the carrier to send planes into the sky more smoothly and more efficiently. It also reduces stress on the aircraft, which can help extend their lifespan. This technology alone took years to develop. Another major system on the Ford is its advanced radar technology. Modern naval warfare depends heavily on detecting threats early. Radar systems on the carrier can track aircraft, missiles, and ships from long distances. These radar systems help protect the ship and guide the aircraft that operate from its deck, and there are many aircraft on board. A typical deployment of the Ford can carry around 75 different aircraft, including fighter jets, surveillance planes, helicopters, and electronic warfare aircraft. These aircraft allow the carrier to project military power far beyond the horizon. In many ways, the carrier operates like a floating airbase. Jets launch from the deck, carry out missions, and then return to land again on the same moving platform in the middle of the ocean. This requires precise coordination between pilots, deck crews, radar operators, and engineers. Every movement on the flight deck follows strict procedures. Brightly colored uniforms help identify different crew roles. Yellow shirts guide aircraft movement. Green shirts handle catapult systems. Red shirts manage weapons and explosives. Blue shirts move equipment and supplies. Each person has a specific job, and every action must happen at the right time. Below the flight deck, the ship is filled with complex systems that support these operations. Elevators move aircraft between storage areas in the deck. Fuel systems supply aviation fuel. Weapons storage areas hold missiles and bombs that aircraft may carry during missions. All of this operates under one of the ship's most powerful features, nuclear propulsion. USS Gerald R. Ford is powered by 2 nuclear reactors. These reactors produce enormous amounts of energy that allow the ship to operate for many years without refueling. Nuclear power also provides electricity for the ship's advanced systems, including radar, communications, and electromagnetic launch systems. Because of this, the carrier can stay at sea for very long periods. Aircraft carriers like the Ford are central to the strategy of the United States Navy. They allow the country to deploy military air power almost anywhere in the world without needing nearby air bases. If a crisis happens in a distant region, a carrier strike group can move into the area and begin operations quickly. For this reason, the Ford rarely travels alone. It usually sails with a carrier strike group, which includes guided missile destroyers, cruisers, submarines, and support ships. Together, they form one of the most powerful naval formations on Earth. This group protects the carrier and extends its combat capabilities. For years, the Gerald R. Ford represented a new chapter in naval engineering. It was designed to be more efficient, more powerful, and more capable than any aircraft carrier before it. From the outside, everything about the ship suggests strength and control, advanced systems, powerful aircraft, and thousands of trained sailors working together. Yet even within this floating fortress of technology and steel, thousands of machines operate every minute. Miles of wiring carry electricity through the ship. Engines run continuously. Aircraft are maintained and prepared for missions. Elevators move heavy equipment through narrow compartments. In a place this complex, something small can sometimes become something serious. And somewhere, deep inside the ship, beyond the massive flight deck and the roaring aircraft engines, the quiet systems of the carrier continued running. The same systems investigators would soon begin examining very closely. After the fire was brought under control, the situation on the ship slowly returned to normal. The alarm stopped. Smoke began to clear from the affected area. Sailors returned to their stations and daily duties. From the outside, the massive aircraft carrier looked calm again, moving steadily through the water. But inside the ship, a different process had already begun. Whenever an incident happens on a U.S. Navy vessel, especially on a ship as important as the USS Gerald R. Ford, a formal investigation follows. The Navy treats every accident seriously, even if the damage appears small. For investigators, the main question is always the same: how did it start? The investigation process usually begins immediately after the emergency ends. Officers collect reports from the sailors who first noticed the smoke. Damage control teams describe what they saw when they arrived at the scene. Engineers review the equipment located in the affected area. Every detail matters. Aircraft carriers are extremely complex machines. Inside the Ford are thousands of electrical systems, mechanical components, ventilation networks, and communication lines. A single malfunction in one part of the system can sometimes create unexpected problems somewhere else. Investigators begin by studying the exact location where the fire started. According to early information released by the U.S. Navy, the fire began in an internal section of the ship, not on the flight deck where aircraft operate. This detail immediately changed the direction of the investigation. If a fire starts near aircraft or fuel storage areas, investigators must examine the possibility of aviation accidents or fuel leaks. But when a fire starts inside the ship's operational areas, the possible causes can be different. Electrical systems are often examined first. Aircraft carriers rely on enormous amounts of electricity. Miles of cables run through narrow compartments, powering computers, radar systems, lighting, equipment, and control panels. If an electrical wire overheats or becomes damaged, it can sometimes create sparks or heat that lead to a fire. Mechanical equipment is another possibility. Inside the ship, machines operate constantly. Pumps move fluids through pipes. Cooling systems regulate temperatures. Motors power elevators and other heavy systems. Any mechanical component that overheats or fails can create dangerous conditions. Investigators also examine the possibility of human error. Naval ships operate under strict procedures, but mistakes can still happen. Equipment may be used incorrectly. Maintenance tasks may not be completed exactly as planned. Even small errors can sometimes create unexpected problems inside complex systems. Because of this, investigators carefully review maintenance records. They check when equipment in the affected area was last inspected. They examine whether repairs were recently performed. They review logs written by engineers and technicians who work in that section of the ship. At the same time, another challenge appears during incidents like this. Rumors begin spreading online. As soon as reports of the fire reached the public, posts started appearing across social media platforms. Some claimed the fire had been caused by an attack. Others suggested sabotage or hidden damage to the carrier. Such claims often spread quickly, especially when the ship involved is one of the most famous warships in the world. But official reports from the Navy did not support those ideas. There were no confirmed reports of enemy attacks, missile strikes, or external damage to the ship. The fire appeared to be an internal incident rather than a combat-related event. Still, the Navy continued its investigation carefully. Large military ships follow strict safety procedures after any onboard fire. Engineers inspect nearby equipment to make sure hidden damage has not spread beyond the original area. Sensors and monitoring systems are checked to confirm that all systems are functioning normally. The goal is not only to understand what happened, but also to prevent similar incidents in the future. Aircraft carriers are designed with multiple layers of protection against fire. Fire-resistant materials are used throughout the ship. Ventilation systems help control smoke. Fire suppression equipment can release foam or water to stop flames from spreading. The training of the crew is also critical. Every sailor aboard a Navy ship receives damage control training, which includes learning how to fight fires in tight spaces, how to control smoke, and how to prevent fires from spreading to other sections of the vessel. This training is one reason the Ford's crew was able to respond so quickly. The emergency teams moved fast, followed procedures, and contained the fire before it could become something larger. Still, investigators continued reviewing every part of the incident. They analyzed equipment. They reviewed sensor data. They interviewed crew members who were near the area when the smoke first appeared. The investigation would eventually produce a report explaining what caused the fire and how it was handled. But until that report was complete, many of the answers remained inside the quiet technical records of the ship. Deep within the massive structure of the carrier, behind layers of steel and machinery, the evidence of the incident was still there. Small traces left behind by a fire that had briefly disturbed one of the most powerful warships ever built. From a distance, an aircraft carrier looks almost unstoppable. When the USS Gerald R. Ford moves across the ocean, it represents one of the strongest symbols of military power in the modern world. Fighter jets launch from its flight deck. Radar systems scan the skies. Thousands of trained sailors work together to operate the ship every hour of the day. To many people, a vessel like this appears nearly perfect. A machine built with the best technology, the best engineering, and the best training available. But the incident on the Ford quietly reminded experts of something important. Even the most advanced warships are still machines, and every machine, no matter how powerful, operates inside a world full of risk. Aircraft carriers are often described as floating cities. Thousands of people live and work on them for months at a time. Inside the ship are kitchens, sleeping quarters, control rooms, medical areas, storage spaces, and endless corridors. The ship also carries aircraft fuel, weapon systems, engines, and miles of electrical cables. All of these systems operate together constantly. Every day, aircraft launch and land on the flight deck. Maintenance crews repair jet engines. Radar operators track activity in the surrounding airspace. Engineers monitor nuclear reactors deep inside the ship. It is an environment where thousands of tasks happen at the same time. Because of this complexity, the Navy designs aircraft carriers with many layers of safety. Fire detection sensors are placed throughout the ship. Ventilation systems help control smoke. Emergency teams train repeatedly to respond to accidents. Still, even with these systems in place, unexpected events can happen. The history of naval operations contains several reminders of this reality. Over the decades, different aircraft carriers around the world have experienced fires, accidents, or mechanical failures. Most of these incidents were handled quickly by trained crews, but each one reminded naval planners how challenging it is to operate machines of this scale. For the U.S. Navy, the Gerald R. Ford represents the next generation of carrier technology. It was built to improve efficiency and reduce the workload on sailors. New systems were designed to launch more aircraft, carry out more missions, and operate with greater automation than older carriers. But new technology can also introduce new challenges. Complex systems require careful maintenance and constant monitoring. Engineers must understand thousands of components that work together across the ship. Even small malfunctions can sometimes create unexpected situations. Because of this, the Navy closely studies every incident that occurs aboard its ships. Each investigation provides information that can improve safety procedures, training programs, and maintenance schedules. Lessons learned from one event can help prevent problems on other vessels in the future. For military planners, aircraft carriers remain one of the most important tools in naval strategy. These ships allow a country to deploy air power anywhere in the world without relying on nearby air bases. A single carrier strike group can influence events across entire regions. This is why the Gerald R. Ford often operates as part of a carrier strike group. Destroyers, cruisers, submarines, and supply ships travel alongside the carrier, forming a powerful naval formation. Together, they provide protection and support for the aircraft carrier and its aircraft. Despite this strength, life at sea always carries uncertainty. Weather conditions change quickly, machinery runs constantly, crews operate under demanding schedules during long deployments. Even with advanced technology and experienced sailors, the ocean remains an unpredictable environment. For the crew of the Ford, the fire incident became another moment that demonstrated the importance of training and teamwork. Damage control teams responded quickly, emergency procedures worked as designed, the ship continued its mission without major disruption. But the event also left behind a quiet reminder. Inside a vessel as massive and complex as the Gerald R. Ford, thousands of systems continue working every second. Engines turning, cables carrying electricity, machines running behind steel walls that few people ever see. Most of the time, those systems operate perfectly. Yet hidden deep within the structure of the ship, where machines work without pause and steel corridors stretch through the darkness, the silent machinery of the carrier continues its endless motion beneath the surface of the sea.